Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Coogan Cassius, and some very special guests. Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
you get up, you dress up, and you fucking show up.
Welcome to episode 7 of Talking Smart with PUGH McCART. That is young Joe PUGH over there with the hair, looking smart as always. Joe, how's things?
Not too bad, mate. Literally just got in about 10, 15 minutes ago from Sheffield. I must admit, I missed my first train this morning. So, got the second one, but we just got back in. I understand you drove straight from Manchester all the way up to Scotland last night, mate?
Yeah, I got in about 4:30 this morning. Straight after the show, just jumped in the car. I thought, you know what, I'll get home, see my daughters and whatnot, get up with them, have a coffee and whatnot. But yeah, I'm tired this afternoon, but you know me, I'll get the job done as always. So yeah, well, I was at a show last night. I was at Franchon Cruz Dezurn versus Savannah Marshall, and you were in Sheffield for the British title fight with Dalton Smith and Sam Maxwell. I managed to catch a couple of highlights of the fight, but I'll let you break down the card, Joe, and then both of us will discuss Smith and Maxwell. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, listen, I think it was a card that exceeded expectations. The fights were actually really entertaining, really competitive, and it done a lot in developing a lot of promising careers. I'll probably start off with Junaid Bostan, who I think a lot of people have touted him as one of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom's best British prospects. And I was speaking to him after the fight. He was really frustrated and a bit deflated with his performance, but I think everyone was really, really impressed. I think he was really hard on himself. It was the first time that he went the full 8 rounds against an undefeated area champion in Amos, and he outclassed him in kind of every way. I think maybe he took a round off in the 6th or 7th and maybe might have lost that. But apart from that, comfortably won every round. And probably from rounds 1 to 3, it was actually beautiful to watch. A fantastic boxer and a serious, serious talent. I think you've also got Hopey Price, who managed to kind of slowly but surely break down James Beach Jr., who's just been in there for the British title against Nathaniel Collins, been in there with some great, great fighters, Brad Foster. And the corner had to pull James Beach out. Hopey Price, that was his first fight at that weight division, moving up. And speaking to Dave Caldwell throughout the week and after the fight, he wants one more fight. And then the back end of the year, pushing into early 2024, he wants that British title, whether that's still Nathaniel Collins or whether he vacates, or we'll see what's going to happen there. And I think the show, apart from Dalton Smith, which we'll both come on to in a minute, I think the show belonged to Pat McCormack. Pat McCormack put on an absolutely demolition performance against a really, really tough Dixon. It looked like he could have had him out in the first round, but if there was an extra 10, 20 seconds, he probably would have had. But he got a little bit too excited, got back to the corner, spoke with Ben, done a fantastic job, and 4th round, it was a fantastic performance. I'm so excited to see Pat and what happens in his career. But the main event, Dalton Smith, his 3rd defence of the British title. Not many people hold that British title for 3 title defences anymore. A lot of people want to vacate, move up to European, move up to kind of world eliminators, international titles, get on those rankings. But Dalton Smith has done it the traditional way against Sam Maxwell, who's been there. He has been the Dalton Smith. He's been the prospect coming through. And it was a fantastic fight on paper, and it really didn't fail to disappoint. The clash of heads with the cuts above Dalton Smith's eyes really made it interesting. And Andrew, you've probably seen it. That knockout, that was something special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something special. I mean, the sharp 1-2 from Dalton, and the kid can bang. I mean, going into this fight, a lot of people were probably looking at his last 2 performances against Casey Benjamin and Arlington, and probably thinking that Sam Maxwell, with his experience and his amateur background, and he could nick this fight. But I think with Dalton, I think the better opponent you put in with him, it's that old saying, the better the opponent, the better that fighter will become. And I think that's true with Dalton. I've been a fan of Dalton since I watched his debut. I was lucky enough to be at his debut, and I've followed his career ever since. We actually became good friends. So, and I'm very good friends with Sam Maxwell as well. But for Dalton, I just think that he's something special, especially in that 140-pound division. I think it's probably time to step up outside of the UK now. You've defended the British 3 times with a spectacular knockout against somebody with like Sam Maxwell, who's an absolutely phenomenal fighter in his own right. So I would like to see him probably step on now into that European fringe world level. I'm sure there's a 140-pounder out there somewhere who's fought for a world title, or maybe an aging ex-world champion, just so he can get his feelings for that world level. But yeah, I'm excited for Dalton Smith. I'm gutted for Sam Maxwell at the same time because, like I say, he used to train up in Scotland, Sam, so we became good friends. But listen, Sam's held that British title. He can't hold. Listen, he's done it. His amateur career. He's got Commonwealth Games medals as well in the amateurs. So gutted for Sam. I heard last night that that's him retired. So if it is, man, Sam, hold your head up, mate. You've done an absolutely fantastic job. Fantastic servant for British boxing, amateur and pro. So well done to you, and well done to Dalton Smith, a young fighter we can all get excited about. And I'm absolutely excited. I just want to touch on Junaid and Pat McCormack and Hopi. I mean, them young 3 guys with Ben Whitaker last night and a young guy called Callum Simpson who fought in Manchester. Them 5 fighters there. I'd never seen Callum Simpson fight before. It's super middleweight. Fought my mate Boris Crichton, and I really like him. I like his style. I like the way he approaches the game. I like the way he fights. Ben Whitaker, he's got that showmanship like Naz, and he can pack a punch as well. And you mentioned Pat McCormack, Hopi, and Junaid. I think the young crop coming through, these guys that are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 0. We can get excited. I think there's a new batch of fighters coming through, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, certainly. And I think you obviously had the batch coming out of the Olympics. Last night, we saw McCormack and Whitaker on 2 separate shows, and it's going to be really interesting to see who stands out. And it's a really varied crop. And we've all seen them go very different ways, because you've got the likes of Fraser Clark, who's older, and then you've got Yafai, who's been fast-tracked, and you've got the females. So everyone's gone their own path, but we'll see who finds success. I just want to quickly mention Nico Livias as well. He has had some terrible luck with cuts, illness. I was in Nottingham where he had to pull out for illness, and he was in a really bad way. And it was emotional for him last night, because he's a fantastic prospect. Also under the tutelage of Grant Smith, who's really laying claim to be one of the best trainers in the UK right now after last night with what he done with Nico, Junaid and Dalton, going along with what he done with Sonny a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely fantastic from that gym. But yeah, he looked really sharp. He looked really good against another undefeated guy. He's not afraid to be moved up. He just wants to get active. But the future is looking bright for British boxing. And I was speaking to Dave Caldwell throughout the week, and I think he's got it spot on. It's important not to rush these guys, because you look that they're all young. They've all got so much time to develop, because it's a different game, the amateurs and the pros. And let them develop, let them harness their skills, let them become the stars that they can be. Because if everything goes the right way, we could produce a massive crop of big world stars of boxing, mate, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Definitely. And like I said to you, in Manchester, first time I saw Ben Whitaker live, first time I've met Ben Whitaker. And off the camera, he's such a nice guy, really nice guy. I know a lot of fans won't take to him because of the way he acts in the ring with the dancing and the showmanship, and a lot of people might tune in just to see him get knocked out. But that's what puts bums on seats. That's why the fans pay to watch him. Floyd Mayweather marketed that, like we spoke about a few times, maybe last week it was, that he marketed that. People don't come to watch him win; they come to watch him get beat. But Ben was a fantastic fighter, man. He when he really wants to up that gear, when he starts putting it into 4th and 5th gear and he starts going for it, you can see he's got it. He's got that dog in him, which is good. And like I said, the super middleweight division with Callum Simpson, probably relatively unknown, but he's signed with Sky now. One to watch out for if you've not seen him fight. And then obviously we got Mark Jeffers who beat Zach Chile last night as well. So that was what would you say, an upset? Maybe it was an upset because Zach Chile always finds a way to win, and Mark Jeffers from Manchester gave him his first loss. So fair play to him. And then Natasha Jonas, she's a 2-weight world champion with I think it was an 8-round stoppage win over Candy Wyatt. Now Natasha, she was a super featherweight. She was a lightweight. Then she won she won 3 titles up at super welterweight, came back down to welterweight to win another world title. Normally when you become a 2-weight world champion, you go up in weights. Do you know what I mean? You go from a lightweight, light welter, but Natasha's went up and now she's starting to come down again. So I'm so happy for Tasha. She's fantastic. And she was mentioning even going down again to fight like a Katie Taylor or Chantel Cameron for them belts. So I mean, I don't want to say Natasha's age, but she said herself to me in an interview that she's coming to the end of her career and she just wants nothing but big fights now. There's nothing but big fights for Natasha, and she's done well, and I'm happy for her. But the main event was Franchon Cruz Dezurn against Savannah Marshall. You know what? I would say it was a majority decision. I probably thought that I probably gave Savannah the fight. I would give probably 3 rounds in it, but it was one of them fights, Joe. I don't know if you saw it, but it was hard for any fighter to get going, if that makes sense, because Franchon's that come forward, head down, throwing wide shots, and Savannah tries to get a jab off. So it was quite an untidy fight, but I think the cleaner shots, the body work as well from Savannah Marshall. She was 1-2 left hook to the body was a lot neater. I think she busted Franchon's nose. So I think Savannah was the clear winner in that fight. And obviously Clarissa Shields was ringside, and they had a little back and forth and the rematch. And you know what? I think with women's boxing, especially in and around that 160, 168 division, and probably every other division, even though there's talent there, it's not a deep pool of talent. There's not many girls in and around these weights for them to fight this person and that person. So I think the only logical fight for Savannah and Clarissa is the rematch. And whether that takes place, I know Clarissa says she wants it in Detroit, Savannah wants it here again. I mean, money talks, so wherever the money lies, I'm sure that fight will happen, wherever the most money can be generated. But yeah, great fight last night, great card to be to witness, and like I say, the fighters that we spoke about coming through for British boxing, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, just on that, Paul, I think that there isn't really anywhere else for Clarissa to go, kind of commercially and financially, other than that Savannah Marshall fight, because they can probably build it as the rubber match, because Savannah obviously beat her in the amateurs, and that's what the first fight was built on, obviously. But I think anywhere between 130, maybe 135 to 147, I think they're blessed because there is a slightly deeper pool. So the likes of Katie Taylor, McCaskill, Cameron, they can all fight each other, and it becomes entertaining. But at the minute, we haven't got that in the 160, the 168 division. So that will come with time. But at the minute, I think the next logical move is for that Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields rematch. It was good for Savannah to get back to winning ways. And it's not just a run out. It's a massive world title fight for her. And that will give her a tremendous amount of confidence. And she'll look to avenge that defeat that happened last year at the O2 against Clarissa Shields.
I think so. And I think she said herself as well that she's more comfortable at 160. That 160 limit was a little bit too much, she said. So she, in her own words, she said she's better at 160, and she thinks that this is, if Clarissa was to fight her at 160, that this is where she'll feel more comfortable at. And you can see it. She didn't look that bad. She didn't look bad on the scale. She looked strong on the scale. She looked strong last night against Franchon Cruz Dezurn, who is that come forward, rugged fighter. And even though she was trying to sort of bully Savannah, she never got to bully Savannah. Savannah stood her ground, and you know what I mean? And like I said to you, the body work I thought was phenomenal from Savannah. This kept on that left hook to the body, rolling away. And as you know, you chop the tree and the head will fall. Do you know what I mean? She was kept on digging it in the body. And then in the later rounds, she was landing the right hand down the pipe, a straight right hand. So it was a good fight. And like you said, the Clarissa Shields rematch is the most, probably like you said, commercially biggest, female fight going right now, other than maybe you can argue the Katie Taylor-Chantal Cameron rematch. So it is there. Savannah Marshall, she's undisputed now. She's back being a world champion. So the negotiation tools are there. Once you get these world title belts, man, they're all little pieces of the puzzle that every fighter wants. Yep. And if they're holding them, then they've got to come to you. So, yeah. Man, listen, like we spoke about since we started this podcast, Joe, boxing this year has been fantastic. You know what I mean? Liam Smith was there last night. He was talking about Chris Eubank rematch in September. That's looking good. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, boxing's good. British boxing's good. World boxing's good. So, we're into July now. We've got a big fight end of the month. I don't know if you know, Joe, it's Spence and Crawford end of the month. So, yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm buzzing.
Yeah, those two little-known welterweights going at it at the end of the month. But, yeah, it should be the start of a really good month, especially stateside. But just going back to Dalton Smith last night and what you said about Sam Maxwell, just if that is the end for him, I didn't know that. I haven't seen that. But if that is the end for him, obviously one of the nicest guys in boxing, I'm sure you'll agree. You know him. I just chatting to him throughout the week, just an absolutely phenomenal guy. And it was quite worrying straight after that knockout. It took him a while to get up, and you never like to see that. And I think it was testament to Dalton Smith, because I think he went up to Eddie Hearn and said, like, that is dangerous. Like, he was emotional about that. And Eddie said, look, that is the fight game. So two really great guys. And I think that shows the gentleman side of the sport. That shows the good side of it, where everyone gets wrapped up in kind of politics, he said, she said, back and forth. And we love it because it's entertainment. It is the entertainment business. But at the end of the day, it's a fight game. It's a serious sport. And at times it can be worrying. But thankfully, two gentlemen going at it last night, give each other a big hug at the end, and the better man won. But I know you want to speak about the heavyweights, and it's not the big heavyweight names. It's probably a heavyweight name for the future.
Yep.
In a big step up last night. Jared Anderson, he's on the tip of a lot of kind of industry experts' tongue, and has been for the past kind of 18 months, 2 years now, as a heavyweight to watch out for. He stepped up in quality with a former world champion in Charles Martin. Charles Martin that's been in there with top heavyweights, a really good measuring stick
former
for him.
World champion as well.
And yeah, former world champion IBF. What did you make of his performance last night in this step up?
You know what? It was a step up. And I was sort of like half thinking to myself when Charles Martin came in last minute, like what Charles Martin's going to show up. Because for lack of a better word, you could probably say that Charles Martin may be lazy, and he might not approach the fight like he wants to win and whatnot. But he did last night, and he put it on Jared Anderson in that fifth round. He got dropped in the third, I think it was, and then he came back, and in the fifth round, he really rocked Jared Anderson. So we know that Jared Anderson hasn't had his chin checked. Now he has. He came through it. And at the end, the last round, the 10th round as well, Charles Martin let him know with the last 10 seconds to go that it's still a fight, even though Jared Anderson was on the front foot. So, you know what? I was impressed with Charles Martin last night, and I was impressed with Jared Anderson. I've been a fan of Jared Anderson for a long time, because heavyweight boxing is boxing, and we need these young heavyweights to come through. We've got the young guys like Daniel Dubois and Jared Anderson. We've got Matty Harris in the UK as well, who's doing well. Many people don't even talk about Matty Harris, but I've been at probably 3 or 4 of his fights, and he's a phenomenal young man. But out in America, I think when you're talking about heavyweight boxing, you need that American heavyweight. You need that American heavyweight, and whether we like it or not, it's always been sort of the Mike Tysons, the Muhammad Alis, the Joe Lewises, all these guys that come through, even the Deontay Wilders, and then now you need that next guy coming through. And I think that is Jared Anderson, even though when you look at that, Joshua got a Charles Martin who's probably a little bit more on his game, and Joshua got him out there in what, 2-3 rounds, was it?
Yeah, I think it was 2 rounds, yeah.
2 rounds, and then Jared Anderson went the distance with him, only dropping him, and Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. I think styles make fights, and I think Jared Anderson is an exciting prospect that we can all get excited about, especially in a division where the top 4 guys that we always talk about and we're probably sick of talking about, they're in the mid-30s to late 30s now. So what, we got 2-3 fights out of them. So we need this young batch coming through, and I think Jared Anderson is one of them fighters that's going to come through and pick up that mantle when they're all retired. What's your thoughts on it?
Oh, I agree. I think there is a very interesting crop, and it would be great to see what Daniel Dubois does against Alexander Usyk, because even if he does lose that fight, we know he is the big underdog. He'll gain a lot of experience from that fight, and he will come again because he's that young. Jared Anderson, really excited to see where he'll go from now. I think it's hard to put him in to kind of see what opponent is next to him, because you've got your Charles Martin who's been there, and then you got to bridge that gap. You got to bridge that gap between Charles Martin and a top 15 guy, a top 10, 15 guy, which is hard. So it'll be very interesting to see who he's matched against. There is no need to chuck him in with one of the big names yet, because he's young. It's still a lot of time. But I think when you see the way the heavyweight division's going, it looks like Tyson Fury's fighting Ngannou, which we might have to touch on. I want to get your opinion on that, Andrew. But it's going to be interesting to see the growth and development of all these young heavyweights. And yeah, Jared Anderson's certainly one to watch out for.
Well, I'll touch on it. Like, the only fight I want to see Tyson, well, there's 2 fights I want to see Tyson Fury in, and it's the only 2 fights I want to see Tyson Fury in is Usyk or Joshua. Does that mean I won't tune in to watch Ngannou? Yeah, I'll tune in to watch the Ngannou fight, man. It's Tyson Fury, it's Ngannou. Ngannou's got that. I mean, even though he's a UFC fighter, he started off as a boxer, believe it or not, and then he became into the martial arts. But like with Franchman fight against Savannah Marshall, she's very unorthodox, and Savannah can't get going. Now, Ngannou approaching this Tyson Fury fight, if it is going to happen, he's that unorthodox fighter, just swinging big haymakers, and sometimes it's hard to defend, because when a fighter doesn't know what he's doing, it makes you hard to know what he's doing. So if Ngannou doesn't know what he's doing when he's just throwing shot after shot after shot, it's going to confuse Tyson Fury, and he's not going to know what to do. So it's going to be hard to counter him when he's just throwing lefts and rights, and his feet are crossing over, and he's closing the distance by walking forward. And you know what? It's I'll tune in if it's MMA gloves in a cage, but boxing rules. I mean, I'll tune in for that. If you're gonna fight, if you're gonna do this crossover stuff, make it a crossover thing. Put the smaller gloves on, put it in a cage, boxing rules, Queensberry rules. If you're gonna do it like that. Do you know what I mean? It's make it 50-50. Try and make it so it's even in some sense. Do you know what I mean? Tyson Fury's not used to the small gloves, and Ngannou is used to getting hit with these small gloves, the little 4-ounce MMA gloves. If you're gonna do it like that. Why not?
Eddie Hearn said to me yesterday that he believes it's going to be an exhibition. So I think we're probably going to rule out a WBC defense against Francis Ngannou, which would have been absolutely madness. I would have loved to see the backlash that Maurizio Sullivan got if that was the case.
Imagine if Ngannou won. Imagine if Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou, the WBC champion on his professional boxing debut, unbelievable. But I think everyone will watch it. Absolutely everyone will watch it. I'm not a UFC fan. I know very, very, very little about UFC, and I know even kind of fewer UFC fighters. But yeah, I know Francis Ngannou. I think he got that crossover appeal. I know he's a powerful guy, and Tyson Fury is arguably number 1 heavyweight in the world. So it certainly sells. It certainly sells, and it'll be very, very interesting to see that what the rules are. What the stakes are. I'm sure there'll be a lot of money involved in it. And Saudi Arabia, once again, pulling off these massive, massive nights. We know their intentions with the heavyweight division, but we've seen with the likes of Jake Paul and Tommy Fury that they're not afraid to go into other realms. Because obviously that was that crossover appeal. And I think at the end of the day, the reason Saudi Arabia is invested a lot of funds into boxing, we're now seeing it into football, is because it's that they want to promote their country. So putting on an event of this magnitude that's going to get as much eyes onto that is certainly promoting Saudi Arabia, and that's why I think we'll see it happen.
Yeah, like I said, I'm one of them guys that I've got my tinfoil hat on. Maybe the WC haven't mandated anyone for Tyson Fury. He's fighting in Ngannou, maybe an exhibition. Joshua and White hasn't been. I don't know what's happening with that. I don't know what Eddie said all throughout the week with that rematch clause being taken out, and will it happen? I mean, 12th of August is what, 6 weeks away, whatever it may be. Deontay Wilder doesn't look like he's fighting, so it looks like they're trying to. Every single these top 4 guys are trying to get a fight in that isn't too difficult, if that makes sense, so this December thing can happen. Because can you imagine one of them guys loses in August, and then it just puts a spanner in the works for Saudi out in December. But like I said, I will tune into the Ngannou fight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Ngannou's unorthodox. He can crack, but I only want to see Tyson in 2 fights, and I want to see Tyson in with Usyk, and I want to see him in with Joshua. So, man, will I get excited about it? Probably not. Will I tune in? Yeah, I'll tune in. Do you know what I mean? I'll definitely tune in, man, because it's big Tyson Fury. But it is, yeah. But listen, Joe, before we wrap this up, we will be stupid not to talk about Jermell Charlo facing Canelo and not Jamal, because that did cross my mind when we were talking there. Your thoughts on that? Probably one we didn't see, and Jermell stepping up 2-3, middleweight stepping up a couple of weight classes to face him. So your thoughts on that? Did it surprise you?
Yeah, I'm massively shocked about Jermell Charlo. I was out and somebody said it. I can't remember who it was when the news broke. And I kept correcting them, saying, "Oh, Jermell Charlo." And then they was going, no, it's actually Jermell Charlo. I was very, very shocked. And it makes it very interesting. At first, I was like a little bemused by it, but now I kind of got my head around it. And yeah, it's kind of undisputed versus undisputed. It's going to be really, really good. It's going to be really interesting. And we was talking about last week those 3 fights, wondering who they would be. And now it looks like if Canelo were to beat Charlo, it could be Charlo Benavidez, or Charlo Benavidez Charlo. There's 3 clear opponents there. And I think, knowing Canelo, he'll want to kind of beat both the brothers. And that's kind of made sense now. But what did you think about it, Andrew, when you first heard that it was the smaller of the 2 brothers?
I was, you know what? I was sort of like I thought like Canelo's, like I said to you last week, Canelo's at that business stage of his career now where he's going to pick the opponents that are good, and then he's going to obviously, like a sort of Floyd Mayweather blueprint. And Jermell Charlo is the smaller of the 2. He's a super welterweight, but he's still big. I've seen him out in Vegas, Jermell. He's still a big man. He's probably taller than Canelo. He is taller than Canelo, in fact. So, like, I'm not surprised. I don't think it's a dangerous fight for him, but I'm not saying it's going to be a walkover for Canelo, because Jermell Charlo is a decent fighter. He can crack as well, and he'll probably fill into that one. It's that 165 catch weight, isn't it? So, it's just under the super middleweight, just above middleweight. Yeah. So Jermell probably walks into the ring at 168, 170 from that 154 cut. So he is big. Do you know what I mean? So, and he has had a loss on his record. He drew against Castano as well. So Canelo's probably looking at this fight thinking, I can maybe get a stoppage in this one. Do you know what I mean? Because of Jermell Charlo is probably, like I say, he's the smaller. He's got a loss on his record. He drew against Castano, which he probably should have lost against Castano in the first fight. But like I said, Jermell Charlo has had that 2-year layoff. He said himself that with the personal problems and the layoff, he probably couldn't get ready for this fight, which is understandable, because if you're going into a Canelo fight, you want to be fighting fit, you want to be ready, you want to be mentally fit, you want to be strong in all aspects of the game, because Canelo is the cash cow. You beat Canelo, that just look at Bivol. Bivol is now probably unheard of before he fought, and casual boxing fans unheard of. But now maybe more casual fans know all about Bivol now because he beat Canelo. People are probably sitting up going, "Who the heck is Bivol?" Do you know what I mean? So you beat Canelo, then your stock is just rising. So Jermell Charlo is probably thinking, I'm not ready for this just yet. If my opportunity comes September next year, give me a couple of fights and I'll fight him September next year, then I'll wait. I'll happily wait because I need to be, and I think every fighter needs to be 100% ready for somebody like Canelo. But even saying that, Jermell Charlo, he hasn't fought for a year and a half. So he's had a long way off as well. Because I think his last win was that KO against Castano back in May 22. So it'll be a year and a half. The time he steps through the ropes with Canelo, it'll be a year and a half for him since he's been in the ring. So I think Canelo's got, it's looking good for Canelo in this fight because I think I'll put Canelo favourite. I will. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy fight for Canelo, but I will say Canelo is favourite in this one.
Yeah, well, he's got the size advantage, but I'm very intrigued to see Canelo coming down the weight because he went up as far as 175 last year when he lost to Bivol. People forget before that he was talking about fighting McCART at cruiserweight. So if he's got his mind on that level of weight to cut back down to 165, he hasn't gone below the super middleweight limit in a number of years now. Will that be difficult for him? I don't know. No,
I don't think so. Canelo's not big, man. Canelo's my size, man. That 3 pounds at 168. Canelo, I'll be hard pushed if Canelo even does a hard cut. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I honestly, I don't think them 3 pounds for Canelo will be tough for him. And like I said, he's 5'8", 5'9". Do you know what I mean? And even though he's got a big frame and he is filled out super middleweight, he probably still has a little. He probably still could make middleweight. To be honest with you, if he wanted to do a cut, if he really wanted to do a cut and dry himself out the night before, the morning of the fight, dry himself out, and he's got on the scales and then look a little bit dry, I think them 3 pounds would be easy for Canelo. I honestly don't think it'll be a problem for him, but because like I say, he's not tall, he's not got massive legs. Do you know what I mean? So I think he can fight at middleweight if he really, really wanted to. If he wanted to, middleweight would be no problem to him. Because, like I say, I know a Scottish fighter, a friend of mine used to say, if you ain't killing yourself to make weight, you're fighting in the wrong weight. Do you know what I mean? And Canelo's definitely not killing himself to make that 168-pound limit.
Fair enough, mate. That's something you know much more than me about, having done it yourself. But I do think that it poses a very different threat, Jermell to Jermell. And once I got over the initial shock and kind of actually thought about it, it's a fight that I'm actually quite excited about. It's something different. It's something kind of left field. And I like that. As long as it's not kind of an unknown guy, an email champion that he's just picking up the belt from, I'm fine with that. And I look forward to seeing it. And hopefully it's the start of a big 3 fights for Canelo.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, we keep touching on it. We keep saying it every week, Joe. Boxing is booming right now. But we're lucky as boxing fans in 2023. So hopefully 2024, we've still got, I'm wishing for 20, we've still got a half a year to go. So there's still half a year to go in 2023. And I think big fights have yet to be announced because, like I say, we still have September, October, November, December to come in terms of announcements. So listen, Joe, always a pleasure, young man. Love speaking with you. Love my Sunday speaking to the PUGH Meister himself. Enjoy your Sunday. And I'm going on holiday on Wednesday, so I'll probably have to do this on the beach next week, if that's all right with you.
Mate, I'll be jealous. And I'm on holiday the week after.
Right, okay.
So you'll get my holiday blues after that.
Right, perfect. So, no worries.
Yeah.
Joe,
guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. And we'll speak to you all next week. Talk Spark with PUGH and McCART.
Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, PUGH Cassius, and some very special guests, Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
you get up, you dress up, and you fucking shut up.